Are you going to invest or are you going to consume? And if someone's 22 years old, I'd say, where do you want to invest your time? Where do you want to invest your resources? And where do you want to invest your future potential? Hey guys, in today's episode, I'm going to be looking at Dave Ramsey giving advice to someone who's 22, wants to become wealthy, calls in, and just to speed you up, he's graduating college. His mother paid for college, which is super amazing. And now he wants to ask, like, hey, I want to be wealthy. We're going to listen to Dave Ramsey. I'm going to react to that. And then wait till the end, because I'm going to give my opinion and my answer to this young gentleman who's got a great head on his shoulders, is calling into the Dave Ramsey show. And I would love to hear from you. If you are telling your 22-year-old self, some of you guys might be younger, but a lot of you guys are older than 22. You're telling your 22-year-old self and give advice on how to become wealthy. What would that be? Please make that in the comments. Without further ado, let's dive in to Dave Ramsey and what he says.
What's like the best way for me? Like it's not the best question, but it's very general. But like, what's the best way for me to get wealthy? Like I don't want to say rich, but like wealthy is like the best way.
Yeah.
Like say.
Well, either one's okay. Neither one are immoral. It's not immoral to be rich. It's not immoral. You're not a bad person automatically if you're wealthy. And so one thing you do want to do is break that out of your head.
I agree with Dave Ramsey. I think a lot of people that say wealth is bad or you're an evil if you're wealthy do not agree with that at all. I believe money just exposes who you are. And if you're not a good person, it can pour gasoline on something that's not headed in the right direction. And vice versa. It can expose and allow you to do a lot of great things if you're a great person.
And so, because if you're other-centered, you can do a lot of wonderful things with money, like your mom did.
Yeah.
Okay? She used money to do this wonderful thing for you, and you'll be able to do that yourself many times over. So, yeah, it's a big question. It's probably too big for a radio answer. I'll tell you the biggest thing, a couple things. Number one is to be doing what you're doing now, gather knowledge, be very intentional with your money.
I love that Dave Ramsey talks about being intentional, because that's BetterWealth's whole mission. Is we are making YouTube videos, we're going on a podcast, we're speaking to help people live intentionally by changing the way that they think about money. So go Dave Ramsey.
Most people just kind of wander along and then wonder what happened. And if you'll just be very intentional, then that will lead you to doing a budget.
Yep.
That will lead you to living on less than you make.
Yep.
That will lead you to generosity.
Yep.
That will lead you to avoiding debt. That will lead.
So Dave Ramsey believes that all debt is bad. This is where I disagree with him, but so far I'm liking what Dave Ramsey's saying.
Lead you to investing, and those are the keys to building wealth. But no one does that accidentally. No one wins the Super Bowl on accident. It's an intentional act. And so just by asking the question, you've started that process of being intentional.
So Dave, there's a lot of
I want to say I 100% agree. The fact that this kid's 22 years old, he's calling in, he's Dave's saying intentional a couple times. I love it. And overall, other than the debt thing, I think Dave Ramsey is giving some really good advice.
media sensations that pop up with, a couple of college friends come up with an idea and they have an IPO and they turn into overnight thises and that's. Is it been your experience, though, that the vast majority of people who build, and I love that he already knows the distinction here, build wealth, it takes a long time, doesn't it?
Yeah, get rich quick just does not work,
right,
statistically. It's so rare. And the interesting thing is those that do it very seldom keep it. And so
I also agree with Dave Ramsey and his co-star here. I 100% agree. The get rich quick scheme is not a great way to look at this. I will say you're going to see that they're going to talk about the long way to go. I think there's ways to become financially free, become financially independent faster than age 65. But overall, I think we do need to be very, very careful not to buy into get-rich-quick scheme, because what we end up doing is we don't get really clear about value and value creation, and that money follows value, and so we just want to do something, and we think more of like a casino than we do true principle.
So because they didn't build the infrastructure in their character to carry it.
That's right. Character.
Ooh, I like that.
It fritters away. You build the muscles by increment, by struggle after struggle after struggle, because a muscle is built by tearing. A muscle is built by destruction, by pain. It is not built by comfort.
I agree.
And so that gradual, over a 10, 12, 15-year period of staying out of debt, living on less than you make, being intentional, doing some things that your friends don't do, not doing a bunch of things your friends do, and that kind of a thing. You have a life, but you're just very smart and wise about it over a period of time. That is how wealth is built. I talked to a young man this morning, 35 years old, came up to me and whispered, he said, I'm an everyday millionaire.
Wow.
And works on our team.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Walked up to me after staff meeting and said, I'm an everyday millionaire. I said, how old are you? He said, 35. And he said, I started working your plan 12 years ago, just out of college. He said, we've always lived exactly what we teach here, to the dime, to the penny, intentional. And he makes good money, but he does, he didn't get paid $1 million a year, I'll tell you that.
He doesn't make millionaire money, right?
No, he doesn't make millionaire money, but he is.
Right.
Because he just that steady, the tortoise wins the race, not the hare.
Every time.
Yeah. And that's all the data we have on millionaires tells us that's how they do it.
And that same idea works for marriages, for mental health, for physical health, for weight loss.
Yeah.
You said that right when I came on. I don't even know if you remember saying that to me, but you said, John, I've read that book, The Tortoise and the Hare, a whole bunch. And the tortoise wins every
single time.
So let me just summarize. Dave Ramsey didn't give a lot of concrete direction to the person, but he talked about being disciplined, being intentional, getting a budget, staying out of debt. The tortoise and the hare. Just don't get caught up in get rich quick schemes kind of deal. And I think that's great advice for a 22-year-old. I think that's great advice for someone under the age of 35, because we tend to want to make it big because we all know of somebody who's a billionaire because they came up with some idea. Here's what I want to say, and this is me just being practical and speaking to regardless if you're 22 or 42, the actual framework that I think would serve you well and what we do at workshops, how we coach people is step number 1, know thyself. Like, know yourself. Like, what do you actually want? Did they ask the 22-year-old, like, what do you want to accomplish out of life? Like, what if money was an issue, like, what would you be doing? Like, what would that be? And can you articulate your why? Do you have a mission statement? Like, is that, and Dave Ramsey's defense, like, this could be a 2-day deal. Get really, really clear on that, because you're 22 years old, you have your whole life in front of you, and time is such an amazing thing, but every day you have one less day that you can live. Then step number 2, and again, this works if you're 22 or older. Step number 2 is start auditing. Audit 3 things. Audit your time. Now, if you're 22 years old, you have a lot of potential life ahead of you, but audit, like, what are you doing? What do you love doing? Number 2, audit your resources. Audit your money. What's cash flow coming in? What's the future of cash flow? This is where we look at certain things. Do you have any assets? Do you have any debts? Where are you spending your money? Step number 3 is your potential. This is huge. This is huge for anybody, but if you're young, the potential of, like, future work, future relationships, future family, future opportunities. You start auditing that, and you start accounting, like, okay, what does this look like today? If you're 22, you might not have a ton going on, so we need to focus all on it, potential. There's a lot of people that come through, and they might see what's going on and might find so many ways that they can better their resources, better their time. They might chop out, time suckers. They might start cutting out financial cancer cells in their financial life and be able to just better off their whole financial life. And then the third step is, are you going to invest or are you going to consume? And if someone's 22 years old, I would say, where do you want to invest your time? Where do you want to invest your resources? And where do you want to invest your future potential? And you could invest in things that are amplifiers. These could be assets. This could be business. This could be people. At the end of the day, the reason you do that is to help you live the life that you want. And I know that because I asked you. Or you're 100% comfortable with taking your time, your resources, and your potential and putting it and spending it, consuming it, living. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just very, very simple. And so someone was 22 a couple of years ago, I I took my time, I took my resources, and I took my potential and built businesses and built relationships. And I'm a living testimony to someone is currently building businesses, and as a result, am living an amazing life today. But I'm so motivated what the future can hold, and my choices with my time, my money, and my potential are very, very intentional to helping me get to where I want to go and build wealth. I also know people that have a family that are very, very, very happy with their life. And so I'm not going to tell them to go put a bunch of time into building a business or real estate or putting all their resources and doubling down on that stuff, because they're really clear on where they are. So the framework is, number one, know thyself, get really clear on what you want, audit yourself, know what you're good at, know what you're bad at. Step number two, write down what's going on with your time, your money, your potential. Get really clear on that. Figure out model it. And then step number three is, where are you going to invest? Are you going to invest in something that's going to help you get closer to where you want to go? Again, this is something that is way more than just a few minutes to chat. But overall, these are great questions and bettering a young person's life. So subscribe, give me your advice in the comments below. Like, what would you do? What would you tell your 22-year-old self? What things do you agree or disagree with what Dave Ramsey said, what I'm saying? And overall, we're trying to help people live more intentional and really put a spotlight on these questions and highlight the questions that people are asking at a young age.